Hi, and welcome to Leadership Liftoff, a podcast for teams under 100. This is the breakdown episode where I'll be breaking down a recent conversation I had with the leadership consultant, Cam McDonald, the leadership consultant. Sounded intense, but he deserves it. What we're going to do today is I'm going to share with you 3 lessons I took away from my conversation with him, aiming for under 10 minutes. So I hope it's packed with tons of value for you and your team. A quick note before we get started, Cam is giving away a free job description template that if you're currently hiring or clarifying roles, this is for you. So check the show notes, check the description, and the link will be over there. So the first big takeaway that I had in my conversation with Cam was his operationalized leadership definition. What do I mean by operationalized leadership definition? Often when I've heard definitions of leadership, they're quite ethereal and intangible, but I really felt like the leadership definition that Cam offered was one that is tactile and something that you can actually hold on to and work with. What was it? Well, he said this: leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others to the pursuit of a goal or an outcome that they all collectively agree upon. Okay? Leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others to the pursuit of a goal or an outcome that they all collectively agree upon. So let's break this down line by line. Leadership is the ability of a person. So what is the saying? Leadership isn't just something you have or you don't have. It is an ability that can actually be developed. It's an ability that can be developed and a skill that can be learned. You can actually learn the micro skills that a leader requires, right? For example, it might be you have a compelling vision, but you don't know how to put it down on paper. That is the next step. And now you have that vision written down in a way that makes sense and is cohesive. How do you communicate it, right? What tone do you have? All these little nuances, these are all learnable traits and skills. So leadership is an ability. I remember a couple years ago when I was leading a team of 70 people and I was a couple of months into my role, and I'm not the most organized guy naturally. It's something I have to push myself into. But as I came into this role and I realized the impact of my lack of skill and organization on the team, how it affected the quality of what we could offer, how it affected the experience of the people on the team, I realized I had to take it upon myself to get this area of my life fixed. And now, I may not be the best at it, but I got myself up to a reasonable competence where the team was able to be organized well. So this is a skill of leadership, along with many micro skills that can actually be developed. So first part, leadership is the ability of a person. Your ability can grow when you listen to podcasts like this, when you listen to and read leadership books. Your ability can grow. So leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others. I would argue along with Cam that this is the macro skill a person who wants to be in leadership needs to get. The ability to mobilize and organize people together. That you learn, if there's a dream, you know how to delegate tasks, you know how to clarify responsibilities. I honestly think of leadership at its best as a conductor in an orchestra, right? They don't necessarily have to be playing the instrument. They're simply conducting the orchestra and making it sound beautiful. If you're a smaller team, is there a time where you too need to play the instrument? Of course. But as a leader, your primary responsibility is to play the role of a conductor in an orchestra. Leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others, next line, to the pursuit of a goal or outcome. You need to be able to clearly define what winning looks like. You need to be able to define what success looks like. And one of the best pieces of advice I would encourage you with is perhaps you have a goal that's 5, 10 years away. The reality is there's steps to get there, and you know that. But often our teams feel lost and discouraged when they don't know if they're winning or not. And so in some seasons of your business and in your organization and team, winning may look like stability, right? Now that's probably not what you woke up and dreamt about when you were thinking about your team, stability. But there's a season where, thank God, we're surviving. is the win, right? Businesses and organizations, as they came out of the pandemic, the top goal, along with mine when I was leading a team, was, can we just stabilize? Can we stabilize the ship, right? Before we venture out into great dreams, can we stabilize the ship? And so within a year, that was my only goal, stabilize the ship. And I was able to tick off a goal like that because it was one step in a larger vision. So leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others to the pursuit of a goal or outcome that they all collectively agree upon and want to aim towards. That they all collectively agree upon and want to aim towards. There needs to be a great sense of ownership on the team where this dream or goal isn't just yours as the leader of the team, but your team actually feels the buy-in. Now, how do you do that? One very practical way is invite them into some of the goal setting. Obviously, you won't be able to completely give this power off, but there's probably more than you think that you could involve your team in, saying, what do you think about this? And when people, right, you're leading adults, when adults feel like the vision is their own, they'll do anything for it. And if you decide, hey, I'm the boss, you're going to do what I say, I would encourage you to read a book like 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. And he talks about how the lowest level of leadership is leading by position. People are saying yes to you because they have to. And so I would encourage you, find a way to create buy-in in your team. So what is leadership? Leadership is the ability of a person to mobilize others to the pursuit of a goal or an outcome that they all collectively agree upon and want to aim towards. Lesson number 2, how it's done matters as much as what is done. How it's done matters as much as what is done. As Cam was working with leaders of teams who are getting ready to scale beyond themselves, they obviously start working on their first hire. Very exciting. But the big mistake a lot of people make is they only allocate what the person does. Now, there's a great logic to that. There's a pain point here. I need to solve for it. Can you come do this for me and I'll compensate you with money for it? But before you know it, the person is doing the thing, but not how you do it. And how you do it is specific. And that's what sets your team and organization apart from the others. And so what needs to be trained for is not just what you do, but how you do it. And this is where Cam started talking about role profiles, which you can get a free download of. How in your role profiles and job descriptions, you need to talk about the values and the characteristics these people need to exhibit. I think a great example of this is Chick-fil-A, right? They've learned to make delicious chicken sandwiches, but also how they deliver the chicken sandwiches matter just as much. They're trained that every time you say thank you, they reply with my pleasure. You can have a fun game and try doing that. But that's what's been instituted in all their training. And I heard a story about when Kathy Truman decided that he wanted his teams to say my pleasure. It actually took about 3 years for that culture to be fully established. He had to repeat himself again and again and again. I remember learning that as soon as you start getting sick of saying it, that's when people are just getting it. And the other saying I heard was, it takes about 3 years for culture to stick. So if you're feeling tired repeating yourself about how we do it, just stick with it. These things do take time. How things are done matters as much as what things are done. And finally, number 3, Cam reminded me about the power of one-liners. You heard it all across the podcast. Cam would be saying, leadership is learned by leading. If what you write on the walls is not present in the halls, it is in culture. Leadership is mobilizing people towards a shared outcome. Fix problems with processes, not projects. And this is a good one. People repeat and replicate what you recognize and reward. Try saying that 10 times. But Cam reminded me of the truth that there's power in one-liners that even he as a consultant uses to remind him of truths. I learned this from the book Principles by Ray Dalio. And essentially what he's saying is one-liners are shortcuts to truths that you've pondered on. In my family, there's a phrase I repeat. It's better to have and not need than need and not have, right? So it's better to have and not need than need and not have. And so when I'm feeling tired and don't feel like doing stuff and maybe don't feel like taking that jacket along the road with me or taking an umbrella, it seems fine outside, but there's a small chance of rain, I say to myself, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. And I think that principle of one-liners can be very applicable to businesses, and you've heard them. Vision leaks, healthy things grow. We measure what we value. People over programs. What gets measured gets managed. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. These are pieces of wisdom that are memorable, that keep you running your teams effectively. So I challenge you, what's a culture piece you want your team to actually grab? Well, create a memorable one-liner about it. And the more audacious, the more it'll be memorable. Alliteration, rhyming, all those things matter. And so have fun and create one-liners that'll stick with your team. And so, hey, that's 3 lessons. This is the breakdown. I hope that was valuable for you. Feel free to share it with leaders of teams and founders. And I hope this is helpful. See you next time.